Okay, and with the applause and cheers, we'll say hello to the filmmaker, Jay Weidner, whose film was released just a couple days ago. Yes, Jay, welcome. When was it released?
Monday.
Have you gotten much sleep?
Not really. Both my wife and I are kind of running this operation all alone, and it's 16-hour days.
Sure it is.
And nobody really knows how to release a movie anymore. It's all very interesting to me. Mm-hmm. And so everybody is kind of, unless you're a superhero or a bestseller, you're flying by the seat of your pants if you have a movie. And fortunately, I have friends like you who can help me get the movie out to a larger audience, and that's been very helpful for me. And it's actually, I think, going to succeed. I'll be able to write the book on how to release a movie, I think, at the end of this.
That's an interesting idea. That's a niche book that would be probably very interesting to a lot of people. There are a lot of what is it? When we were in college, people used to say, "What do you do?" "Oh, I'm writing a novel." Well, now what they say is, "I'm making a documentary."
That's right.
It's all changed. So, yeah, how to get a documentary in circulation. Well, one thing that's sad to see, and you've seen it, and most of you listening have seen it, is the attention span of the average person. Not you folks. None of you are really average in my book. The attention span is 3 to 5 minutes with a YouTube video. That's what people can take. That's about it. And it's all paced. In TV, you watch television, the pacing of it is extraordinary. It's an audio-video amphetamine is what it is, and very addictive. So, all right, tell us about the movie. We've got some notice up on the homepage about it.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
So the movie's it's definitely for the Jeff Rense audience, that's for sure. And it's about a guy who's... It's a little bit autobiographical, at least at the beginning. It's about a screenwriter in Hollywood who becomes disgusted with the whole scene and takes off up the Pacific Crest Trail, which is one of the most awesome trails in the world, really. And along the way, he is diverted up near Mount Shasta, and he discovers that he's not the loser, that he thought he was, that there's a spirit of greatness in him, and that he can change the world and remake the world. And he's helped by a group of people that live up in Mount Shasta, and we kind of play off some of the Mount Shasta themes of like Lemuria and underground cities and things like that. So
some of the scenes in the movie look awfully like my property. Yes,
we shot most of the scenes in the woods, except for with the little boy, were shot on Jeff's beautiful property up in Oregon, and really appreciate that. He didn't charge us. We're very low budget, so we really needed a break if we could get it.
Of course.
So thank you. Yeah, and so the movie's got really great music. The star, the woman who's a female star, 80, who's just absolutely gorgeous and really talented. She was playing the role of Mary in the movie, and I got done shooting, and then I found out that she was actually this incredibly talented pianist and composer of kind of a odd kind of mix of jazz and show tunes, but good, very entertaining, and she has a great voice. And so she ended up writing the score, and it's just really a killer score. And I think that really helped enhance the movie. So it's got great music, really good cinematography, and good acting. And I think the story is very appealing to a wide, part of your audience. Zen Gardner gave it an absolutely stunningly great review. New Dawn magazine gave it a great review. We're just, trying to do what we can. We don't want to go mainstream, so we're trying to keep this thing completely in the alternative communities, and not really have anything to do with the mainstream. That's why we're releasing it on Vimeo, because we could go to, maybe we will one day go to places like Netflix and things.
Right.
But right now, the system is so set up against the filmmakers that they end up making about 10% of what comes in if they're lucky. And
it's like a book author anymore. It's getting to be the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I could not. I'm not going to live in that world. I mean, I'm going to make most of the money that comes in on this movie because I put in all the money, and so it's really a business thing. But it's going to be very interesting. The whole adventure has been interesting, and we're actually in a part of the making of the film that's actually in some ways the hardest because you don't know if people are going to like it, and so it's the ego begins coming in at this point where it hasn't come in before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting thing, an interesting experiment, and interesting time to release a movie that abdicating, overthrowing the system and identifying the archons and the whole.
Okay. Here's your next screenplay. Get to work on this. You got to play. You could maybe play him, I don't know. Stanley Kubrick, hired by NASA to stage the scenes and to show how the scenes were staged of the Apollo landing on the moon.
Yeah.
That's a great storyline.
It is. Well, the number one script in Hollywood that has been made into a movie is 1969, A Space Odyssey, which is kind of similar to what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
And it's all about Stanley's travails making the Apollo footage. It's written by this woman who apparently is from Colorado.
Somebody, wait, I didn't know about this. Somebody already wrote about this?
Yep. Yeah, it's the hottest screenplay in Hollywood that hasn't been bought.
It may not be either.
Yeah, exactly right.
Not for another 50 years.
But you ran an article that I sent you last week about how the U.S. Information Agency was looking for film directors in June of 1965.
Yes.
And even though Stanley had never really had a knockout hit at that point, they still included him on the list, which I thought was odd because the other guys had big hits, Fred Zinnemann and Billy Wilder, all the other ones.
Billy Wilder, Sunset Boulevard, Gloria Swanson, Eric von Stroheim. You folks don't miss that one. Don't miss All About Eve, Betty Davis, George Sanders, one of the most greatest films ever made, without question. Character studies. There were some really wild movies then.
Oh, yeah, the late 50s, they really started. In the 50s, they really perfected the acting. They weren't overacting anymore, and the cinematography was really good, and they finally decided that they could do those high contrast black and white movies,
which is what All About Eve was.
Exactly. Yeah, I love those high contrast black and white movies. I'm just like it.
Very vivid.
Yeah, and some great movies back then, and they recruited these guys for some reason right at the right time, June 1965. And I think what happened is that they were reviewing their films and talking to them, and they when they got to Dr. Strangelove with Kubrick and they saw the B-52s flying over Siberia, they went, I think we've got our guy here. I think this is the guy that can fake it. And I think that's when he got hired.
That's interesting and probably correct.
Yep.
Probably correct.
And Kubrick, he was writing 2001, which at the time was called Voyage to the Stars, with Arthur C. Clarke at the time. And I'm sure that he used that as leverage. He said, hey, I'm making a science fiction movie, and I will tailor it so that we can use it as research and development on how to fake this thing. And that's how it works. And the evidence is entirely building towards this being the correct scenario. And, and again, I want to emphasize that I'm not saying we didn't go to the moon. I'm just saying that what we're seeing in these videos...
We could not afford to fail, all right?
Exactly.
That's the bottom line. The first one had to go perfectly. It had to work. That's why they did it.
Exactly.
They had to have insurance, and they got it from Kubrick's genius.
That's right. What they probably did is they shot the footage as insurance, and then Nixon got elected and took office in January of 1969, and they presented him with all the options, and basically said, he says,
Don't take any chances. No, we're not taking any chances.
Exactly. I'll be president 6 months, and I'm not going to have two guys dying of exposure on the moon because, the thing clipped a rock when it was descending and tumbled, and now it's all broke.
Yeah. So what do we get? We got a lunar lander that landed with no crater underneath it. Very clever.
Yes.
They did miss a few things, I got to tell you.
Well, there's a famous, one of the things that's not very well known about Stanley was one thing that no one can argue with, of course, is that in that time, of all the film directors that were alive, no one understood the technical details of filmmaking like Stanley Kubrick, as that was also a big-time director. Mm-hmm. He knew everything, how lenses work and everything. I mean, it's amazing. And believe me, it's a complicated art form. But one thing that he did was he took Polaroids on the set to make sure the lighting was right, and you get instant return on the Polaroids, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a shot, Apollo 14, I think it is, and there on the leg of the lunar lander are two Polaroids just sitting there.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's just clear as hell that they're Polaroids. And, of course, it's 250 degrees on the surface of the moon, so a Polaroid, funny. Yeah, it would just roll up and disappear.
Is that around somewhere you can send it to me?
I just saw the picture the other day. You Google Polaroid moon, LEM, not LEM, LEM, right? Yeah, LEM, LEM, Polaroids, Apollo, and probably, that should be enough. A little digging down, you'll find it. There's an anti-moon, anti-Apollo site that I go to frequently that he has that up.
Is it Apollo 14?
Yeah, I think it's Apollo 14, yeah. And there's Polaroids right there, which couldn't survive on the moon, by the way.
No
way. NASA says, that's like torn aluminum or something on the leg of the thing, but no, it's not. It's got the jagged thing that you use to pull the Polaroid out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's got those on it. I mean, somebody just set them there. It was Kubrick, and he was constantly doing it. He was constantly trying to.
He left that behind on purpose.
Absolutely, he wanted everybody to know that he did. He had ego just like everybody else, and this was his best stuff ever. I mean. He could never take credit for it. So he left stuff all over to indicate. That's why he put all that stuff in The Shining, because he wanted to be known. I don't think he thought it would come this fast. I thought he thought it would probably take 50 years before people figured it out. But too late for that.
Really? I'm trying to find this. I can't. It's not easy to find. I
have it bookmarked on my computer.
Oh, fine. Send it over to me, then I'll.
Yeah, I'll do it. I will. You'll see it. There's no doubt about it.
I'll put it up for everybody to look at.
Okay, good. I'll do it.
Yeah, they want to see that. That's great. Okay, so right now, where do we see the film?
It's on Vimeo. If you go to if you want to know about the film, then go to thelastavatarmovie.com. And if you want to watch the film and go right to it, then you just go watch, the word watch, WATCH, thelastavatarmovie.com. And you can go watch it. And if we get 600 views by Friday midnight.
I always thought, hold on, I just lost my plug here.
If we get 600 views by Friday midnight, Vimeo will feature us on their front page.
Very good. 600
that
views.
will really help.
Okay, how much does it cost to see the film?
It's $4.99. If you're broke, get a bunch of friends together. You get 10 friends together. It's only 50 cents each.
Let's get help. Let's get this done. Vimeo and The Last Avatar. Watch it by Friday, and they'll feature it, and then it'll get a big push. And I know how hard Jay worked on this. I was around and saw quite a bit of it. Just remarkable.